around you, let it shine till you feel it all around you. And I don't mind if it's me you need to turn to. In these small hours, these little wonders, these twists and turns of fate, time falls away. In these small hours, still remain. All of my regret will wash away somehow, but I cannot forget the way I feel right now. In these small hours, these little wonders, these twists and turns of fate, and these twists and turns of fate, time falls away. Yeah, but these small hours, still remain. Yeah, they still remain. These little wonders, all these twists and turns of fate, time falls away. But these small hours, these little wonders still remain. Hope when you take that jump, you don't feel the fall. Hope when the water rises, you build a wall. Hope when the crowd screams out, you're screaming your name. Hope if everybody runs, you choose to stay. Hope that you fall in love and it hurts so bad. Hey, the only way you can know, you give it all you had. And I hope that you don't suffer, but take the pain. Hope when the moment comes, you say, I did it all. I did it all. On every second that this world could give, I saw so many places, the things that I did. Yeah, with every broken bone, I swear I lived. Hope that you spend your days, but they all add up. And when that sun goes down, hope you raise your cup. Oh, I wish that I could witness all your joy and all your pain. But until my moment comes, I'll say, I did it all. I did it all. On every second that this world could give, I saw so many places, the things that I did. There was every broken bone, I swear I lived. I live. Every broken I did it all. Every second that this world could give, I saw so many places, the things that I did. With every broken bone, I swear I live. I swear I live. She was staring out the window of their SUV, complaining, saying, I can't wait to turn 18. She said, I'll make my own money and I'll make my own rules. Mama put the car in park out there in front of the school, and she kissed her head and said, I was just like you. You're gonna miss this. You're gonna want this back. You're gonna wish these days hadn't gone by so fast. These are some good times, so take a good look around. You may not know it now, but you're gonna miss this. Before she knows it, she's a brand new bride in her one-bedroom apartment, and her daddy stops by. He tells her it's a nice place. She says, it'll do for now. Starts talking about babies and buying a house. And daddy shakes his head and says, baby, just slow down, 'cause you're gonna miss this. You're gonna want this back. You're gonna wish these days hadn't gone by so fast. These are some good times, so take a good look around. You may not know it now, but you're gonna miss this. 5 years later, there's a plumber working on the water heater. Dogs barking, phone's ringing, one kid's crying, one kid's screaming, and she keeps apologizing. He says, they don't bother me. I've got 2 babies of my own. One's 36, one's 23. It's hard to believe, but you're gonna miss this. You're gonna want this back. You're gonna wish these days hadn't gone by so fast. These are some good times, so take a good look around. You may not know it now, but you're gonna miss this. You're gonna miss this. Yeah, you're gonna miss this. But if we are wise, we know that there promise tomorrow. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Please swallow your pride. If I have faith, you need to borrow, for no one can feel those of your needs that you won't let show. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. Lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend. I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. You just call on me, brother, when you need a hand. We all need somebody to lean on. I just might have a problem that you'll understand. We all need somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road. I'll share your load if you just call me. Call me if you need a friend. Call me if you need a friend. If you ever need a friend, call me. 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 If you need a friend, call me. 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 Waking up at the start of the end of the world, but it's feeling just like every other morning before. Now I wonder what my life is gonna mean if it's gone. The cars are moving like a half a mile an hour, and I started staring at the passengers and waving goodbye. Can you tell me what was ever really special about me all this time? When I believe the world is burning to the ground, oh well, I guess we're gonna find out. Let's see how far we've come. Let's see how far we've come. Well, I believe it all is coming to an end. Oh well, I guess we're gonna pretend. Let's see how far we've come. Let's see how far we've come. We could turn 10 o'clock, but I don't really know. And I can't remember caring for an hour. And you know the world is headed for hell. Say your goodbyes, you got someone you can say goodbye to. I believe the world is burning to the ground. Oh well, I guess we're gonna find out. Let's see how far we've come right now. Let's see how far we've come. I believe it all is coming to an end. Oh well, I guess we're gonna pretend. Let's see how far we've come. Let's see how cool. Now it's over for me, and it's over for you. Listen, gone, baby, it's all gone. There's no one on the corner, and there's no one at home. Well, it was cool, it was just all cool. Now it's over for me, and it's over for you. I believe the world is burning to the ground. Oh well, I guess we're gonna find out. Let's see how far we've come. Let's see how far we've come. Well, I believe it all is coming to an end. Oh well, I guess we're gonna pretend. Let's see how far we've come. Yeah, let's see how far we've come. 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 Won't you come see about me? I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby. Tell me your troubles and doubts, giving everything inside and out. And love strange, so real in the dark. Think of the tender things that we were working on. Slow change may pull us apart. When a life gets into your heart, baby, don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me. Will you stand above me? Look my way, never love me. Rain keeps falling down, down, down. Will you recognize me? Call my name or walk on by. Rain keeps falling down, 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 down. Don't you try to pretend it's my feeling will win in the end. I won't harm you or touch your defenses. Vanity, insecurity. Don't you forget about me. I'll be alone, dancing, you know it, baby. Going to take you apart. I'll put us back together at heart, baby. Don't you forget about me. Don't you forget about me. But you won't come back. Will you come my way? When you walk away,
Thank you, and let me invite our graduates and faculty and administration to please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, current and returning faculty, friends and family of the graduates, and you, the graduating class of 2020. I'm thrilled to open these commencement exercises of the year of 2020, the third in our school's young but already remarkable history. In these strangest of times, we gather together to celebrate a class of gladiators who are not likely to forget the circumstances of our assembly today. And so, whether we gather in person or online for this ritual solemnity, it is our personal joy to confirm that all of these members of the class of 2020 have completed the course of studies prescribed by the governing board of North Phoenix and sanctioned by the authority of the state of Arizona. In mutual celebration of this momentous occasion, let us listen to a rendition of our Academy's choral anthem, Gaudeamus Igitur. You will find the words in Latin on the screens and on the back of your programs as well.
Gaudeamus Igitur, Juven estum sumus. Gaudeamus Igitur, Juven estum sumus. Post jucundam juventutem, post molestam senectutem, nos habebitus, nos habebitus. Vita nostra brevis est, brevi fini etur. Vita nostra brevis est, brevi fini etur. Parcetur, nemini parcetur. Vivat Academia, vivant professores. Vivat Academia, vivant professores, vivat membrum quolibet, vivant membra quolibet, semper sinti in flore, semper sinti in flore.
Thank you, Mr. Lang. By tradition, in the Great Hearts Academies, the privilege of offering to the Assembly a speech of welcome, the salutatory address, is granted to a representative of the senior class distinguished by scholarship and espousal of the ideals of our community. This is followed by a valedictory address or farewell speech. The valedictorian selected by the faculty is the bearer of the single highest honor that the school can convey upon any of its students. Both of our students today have a record of academic excellence. Both have demonstrated a profound depth of inquiry and fostered their intellectual curiosity by pursuing independent learning beyond the classroom. Both have been hailed by teachers as classroom leaders, not only in their own performance, but also in their willingness to share their sense of wonder and inspire their peers to greater engagement. This year, the Academy recognizes its salutatorian, Mr. Faison Mistry, and its valedictorian, Ms. Katie Harrington. And we will hear first from Mr. Mistry, whose remarks are pre-recorded, and then from Ms. Harrington.
Hello, class of 2020. I am honored to be chosen as a salutatorian for 2020, but I would not have been able to do it without all of our amazing teachers, the support from all my peers, and my loving and supporting family. Throughout every step of my high school journey, I knew I had someone who I could rely on, who could help me when I needed help, and I'm grateful for that. I also know that not many students can make that claim, but here at MPX, I know that each of us can. And this is because we have such amazing teachers who truly care for our success, and also because we are truly a community. Each one of us is able and willing to help another, no matter how big or how small the task. And that is what makes us a community. As a community, we all share something in common. We are all determined and passionate, and that defines us. Remember at the beginning of the year when we did not know if we would be able to keep the senior commons? Instead of giving it up, we took on the responsibilities that would allow us to keep it. We created that change. We are determined and passionate. Not only have we grown as a community, but also individually in the past 4 years. It all began starting in 9th grade with our trip to Tonto Creek. Tonto Creek was our first taste of freedom of the adult world, but with that freedom came more responsibility. While at Tonto Creek, we were able to do whatever we wanted with our friends, for the most part. And that liberty allowed friendships to flourish. With every new day came a new adventure, whether that was seeing Ben destroy the rim as he made a dunk, laughing while playing croquet with Nick Ames, or hearing Barnett scream, "First place," at 5 in the morning. During this trip to Tonto Creek, we all began to discover who we were and who we wanted to be. When we came back from Tonto Creek, we were different than when we first left. We began to grow closer as a community, and friendships flourished. We nurtured these friendships throughout the rest of the year, and freshman year was soon over, and with it, the first chapter of our high school journey. Then sophomore year rolls around. This year was different. It was almost like a new beginning. New campus, new classes, new teachers, but thankfully, we still had our old friendships. We started out by playing president, but that was soon over. We next moved on to village idiot, Anyway, as sophomore year continued, we kept growing as a community, and we began to better understand ourselves and one another. Then junior year began, the year that decided. This year, we had to take the SAT, which unfortunately basically decides which college you will go to. But that was later down in the year. We didn't have to worry about that yet. Instead, some of us continued to develop our card addiction. This time, it was poker. If you didn't understand why Jordan was doing laps while yelling, or why Pierre ran into the middle of the courtyard and let out what sounded like a war cry, now you will. It was all because of poker. It seemed that as the year went on, each time a rare event occurred, such as a full house or a 4 of a kind, it was a tradition to let out a yell. Was it beneficial? Probably not, but it seemed that it was necessary. Throughout junior year, many other things also started, such as football toss and an interesting game of tag. Anyway, these activities aren't the only thing that made junior year memorable. I also remember all of our HL discussions as we tirelessly tried to show Katie how Socrates truly was the best philosopher. But persistently, Katie debated otherwise. In junior year, I discovered newfound friendships that started to grow and flourish. We all expanded our friendships and became closer as a community. Anyway, junior year continued and around came the SATs. Some of us were prepared but nervous, and some of us crammed in a whole 40 hours of prep in winter break. Either way, all I know is that somehow we made it past that. Little did we know the stress we felt for the SAT was not even comparable to the stress for college applications. Unsuspecting of the work and responsibility we would have in senior year, we finally finished junior year. Then senior year began, and with it came college apps, senior thesis, and senior defense, and even more hurdles. But thankfully, there were also some things to look forward to. We were all looking forward to having the privilege of the senior commons, and finally graduating. Senior year was by far the best year because we were spoiled. I mean, almost every other Friday there was something in the senior commons just for us, and more than anything, that made us feel cared for. However, senior year was also the year with the most work, starting with physics. In physics, the class with the most workload this year, we were caught unprepared. Physics was a class in which procrastination was not a possibility. It forced us to be proactive if we wanted to succeed. Thankfully, though, there was extra credit. Because let's be honest, no one can be proactive 100% of the time. Physics was the first hurdle that most of us had to clear. The second hurdle was college apps. This hurdle was more stress than anything. And that was because every time you look at that application, you think, the rest of my life will be decided after I write these 500 words. And even though that's not true, that's how we all felt. The applications themselves were a lot of work, but not unmanageable. And with a lot of perseverance, we cleared this hurdle as well. The third hurdle we faced was one that we tripped over because no one saw it coming. As seniors, we all wanted to play senior assassins, to experience being seniors to the fullest. It started out great and was really fun, but as the rounds progressed, it got more and more competitive and was no longer friendly. Then came the hurdle, and friendships were hurt. We all tripped and fell, some harder than others. But in the end, we all helped one another stand back on our feet so that we could finish senior year. This hurdle was overcome by time to heal. The last hurdle, or so we thought, looked much bigger than it was. Senior defenses. Up until now, we were all finishing up our senior theses. Looking forward, we knew that we all had to also deliver a defense. As the defenses got closer, this hurdle seemed to grow bigger and bigger. So when we finally got there, each of us jumped higher than the hurdle and easily cleared this. This brings us to our final hurdle, the coronavirus pandemic. Right after the Washington trip, where we literally spent every moment with our friends, we came home only to be isolated. Because of the sudden change in environments, most of us probably felt isolated or lonely. I know I did. But as the days passed, we soon recovered from that feeling by connecting virtually. And we basically got an extended spring break before virtual classes started. Virtual classes were fine, but we lost out on a few things because of quarantine. For one, we lost out on time to spend with one another. And secondly, we also lost prom. Even so, I feel we made the best of this year. We all grew and became who we were meant to be. I know that in the future, each of us will be successful in our own respects, just like how each of us grew as individuals through high school. We all followed our passions and changed who we were. Now it's time to follow our passions and change the world around us. Because we are the class of 2020, a class of vision, or so we're told. We might not see everything that's coming our way, but we will be there for one. I know that we often joke around about me being bullied, but the truth is I have never felt more supported or included. I will always remember all the fun things that we did in Washington, D.C. I will always remember all the laughs we shared in the senior commons. And I will always remember how you guys chanted my name to support me numerous times. I can't say that I always appreciated the attention, but whenever I heard that chant, I felt like all of you had my back. Our grade is a special one. We are truly a close-knit community, and that is special. I can't thank you all enough for creating the most memorable high school experience we could have at NPX. Whether it was hearing David say soy comer in Spanish, cramming in an extra 10 minutes of review for our physics test during Lyceum, or hearing my name being chanted, I know that I would not change even a second of it. I also want to thank all the parents, teachers, and especially Miss Nelson and Miss Curtis for making our senior year memorable. We all love the Friendsgiving and all the food you sent to the senior commons. We owe it all to you. Thank you. Here's to another amazing 4 years of friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mystery. I know you're watching from home, and so I just want to say to you that we're so very, very proud of you. And now I want to welcome Miss Katie Harrington to the podium. Please help me welcome her for our valedictory address.
Thank you, Mr. Weinhold. Hello, everyone, and thank you for coming to the graduation of the class of 2020. I would like to start out by saying a huge thank you to everyone for coming to support us at our graduation and everyone who helped our class get to where we are today, especially our parents, teachers, coaches, and administration here at NPX. Thank you, Mr. Schisler, for planning our DC trip, being our track coach, and teaching our grade math for 2 years in a row. Thank you, Ms. Bailey, for having a math hotline these past few months. that we could call at any time, day or night, because the fact that you picked up one time when I called before 7 in the morning, Mrs. Curtis, for decorating our senior commons multiple times throughout the year with beautiful streamers and inspirational quotes, and bringing in food and planning special events for us, like the Friendsgiving mini feast we had on Thanksgiving, because you alone were the cure for our senioritis. You made our days exciting and happy. Also, a huge thank you to Ms. Miller for scheduling college visits to come to our school and working with our teachers to give us college counseling during our normal class time, so we didn't have to cut our extracurricular activities. Thank you to Mr. Black in the Senate for planning all of our school socials and dances. And of course, I have to thank my parents for always doing whatever they could to help me study or making my lunch for me so I had more time to do homework. I think that I can confidently say that the class of 2020 is the most resilient class ever. Now, I'm not just saying this because our graduating year is the coolest, because 2020 just flows so nicely off the tongue and is pleasing to look at. I'm saying this because the year 2020 has been a year that will go down in history. I don't think I'm alone when I say that I feel like since the start of 2020, it has felt like every single month has been trying to one-up each other as far as chaos. January and February were the very beginnings of Corona, and by March, COVID was officially declared a pandemic, and schools and workplaces and restaurants had shut down. We seniors had to finish our learning online, and trying to learn math and physics through the computer screen is not fun at all. Then, in May, it was announced that murder hornets had arrived in the US. In June, there were riots and lootings, and it became evident that the world we knew was literally and metaphorically burning down around us. And yet, our class is emerging from these challenging times stronger than ever. The chaos of today has not deterred us or our plans for the future. The class of 20 scientists, mathematicians, and many of us will end up taking even greater paths in life than those that we currently envision for ourselves. Now, of course, my point in all this is not that our class should be pitied or that we had it worse than everyone else, because everyone has gone through these hard times, not just the class of 2020. Rather, my point in all this is that all these happenings made me realize what makes the graduating class of North Phoenix Prep in the year 2020 so great, and that is the community that surrounds us. In the midst of all that was going on, the entire community of NPX rose up to support us. Alana and Lauren and their moms planned and personally delivered signs to go in our front yard. And let me just say that although our high school is so far the tiniest high school I have ever heard of, I got my senior yard sign in my yard way before any of the big high schools like my neighbors who go to PV did. Mr. Weinhold, Ms. Scripsima, Ms. Stone, Ms. Jensen, and Ms. Miller worked with us and had senior meetings with us every few weeks so that our class could have a voice in what was going on. Even better, our grade was able to have a drive-through parade, and we are now proud to be a part of the start of this new tradition. In all honesty, although I sometimes was jealous of the advantages that bigger, more established schools got, I am glad to be able to say that I went to NPX. Our school has something that I haven't seen at any other high schools, and that is our strong sense of community. What other graduates can say that their grade invented their own card game freshman year? Or that the entire grade learned how to bridge the deck because if you couldn't do it, you weren't cool. And again, in 10th grade, we invented our own game as well and initiated all the new kids in our grade into the 2 games. Seriously, every single one of us had a deck of cards on our person at all times during those first 2 years. And there wasn't anyone in our grade who didn't know how to play president or village idiot. Also, what other graduating class can say they have their own catchphrases? Our grade has made up many sayings, such as in 10th grade when Nick Ames had everyone saying, "It's fine," or "That's extremely unfortunate." All the way through senior year, where now our grade can't go a few sentences without saying, "Please," or "Worst guy." Also, what other class has a single person that the entire class would vote for as class representative? Faison Mystery is so adored that he has all kinds of nicknames, from Chemistry, Physics, Basil, Gaimon, Basil, Foulon, Positron, and many, many, many more. What's more is our grade is so close that we can bring up occurrences from years ago and all know exactly what we're talking about. Like that one time Mr. Boyer got so annoyed that Pierre kept asking to leave his class to get a drink of water. So he showed up to school the next day with a water bottle and gave it to him, and Pierre started calling it the Boyer bottle. Or when our class was able to convince Mr. Boyer to let us have gymnastics on the field after reading Plato's Republic. Or the multiple times our Spanish class was so loud during a game of Quizlet Live that the Greek class next door heard us. Or when in 10th grade, David managed to win the stock market game in econ and the $50 Amazon gift card prize money that went with it by buying a bunch of little stocks the night before the deadline. Or when Ben broke Chandler's arm during an arm wrestling match and ruined Chandler's baseball career. Or this year, when even the most reserved souls, Maddie Baca, played ping pong with a burning intensity that would surprise anyone during our trip to Lost Canyon. Or who could forget when in freshman year, we all spent way too long trying over and over again to do the mannequin challenge. Or this year, when Miss Bailey brought in a literal cake to help our math class understand how to find the area of a certain region using the washer method. In conclusion, I want to say that although our senior year had a rough ending, because although our senior shirt said class of 2020, the class of vision, none of us saw this coming. We had a great high school experience overall. We got to spend our 4 years here at NPX playing the most intense games of ping pong imaginable, painting our parking spots, having a Friendsgiving feast together, listening to the boys play Bang every day, coming up with different names for Faison, playing with Play-Doh in Miss Bailey's class, doing gymnastics on the field with Mr. Boyer, listening to fun music while doing math problems with Mr. Schisler, and playing Quizlet Live with Miss Pagnon. I know that going to high school years ago, I remember Mr. Munn saying that one day, far in the future, people will wonder where all of these new, successful, and important people went to school. He said that all those people would answer North Phoenix Prep, and I believe that he will be right.
Thank you so much, Katie. You are indeed a remarkable young lady, and we're so very proud of you as well. And now today, we are honored to have with us here as commencement speaker, Senator Paul Boyer. Senator Boyer represents Legislative District 20, which includes much of Glendale and North Phoenix. He is the Vice Chairman of the Senate Education Committee and a member of the Senate Higher Education and Senate Finance Committees. Paul courageously championed legislation that protects victims of abuse and legislation that provides protections for firefighters who get cancer on the job. He's an Arizona native who grew up in the West Valley, attended Deer Valley High School, Paradise Valley Community College, and graduated magna cum laude from ASU West with a bachelor's in English and a master's in communication studies. He's also a board member of Child Help, has received the Outstanding Alumni of the Year Award from Paradise Valley Community College, the Legislator of the Year Award from the Arizona Association of County School Superintendents, Outstanding Leadership and Advocacy in Protecting Arizona's Children Award from Not My Kid, and Legislator of the Year Award from the Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry. But even with all of these remarkable accomplishments, Senator Boyer will tell you that it's teaching great books that truly fills his soul. He's just completed his 6th year of teaching humane letters with Great Hearts, where he does what he would call his most important work, pursuing truth, goodness, and beauty together with the young people in his care. And he's managed to be both a public servant and a good man. Please help me welcome our commencement speaker, Senator Boyer, to the podium.
Well, good morning. What a tremendous honor it is to be your keynote speaker this morning. And I told my professor that you all had voted for me to be your speaker. She told me that that might be even more of an honor than being elected as a state senator, because high schoolers are tough critics. So the year 2020, who knew that we would have lost out on meeting together for fourth quarter and would be in a government-imposed exile for 2 months? And I don't know about you, but it was hard on me, and many I know. And that makes sense after all, because it was Aristotle who said that man is a political animal. We are naturally part of the polis, the Greek word for the city. It's natural for us to want to be with each other. And after hearing the last two speeches, it's evident how communal we are here at North Phoenix Prep. But we're here now. And in case you've forgotten all that you've accomplished, I'd like to remind you of everything that you have to be proud of. You have spent over 1,000 hours in Humane Letters seminar discussions with the great books. You've read over 200 works of literature and philosophy, together with 100 poems by more than 100 authors. You've studied 500 years of modern European history and 300 years of American history. You've proven 75 propositions from Euclid, as well as the fundamental theorem of calculus. You've spent at least 40 hours preparing for and defending your senior thesis. You've performed 25 concerts and plays. You have completed 3 advanced studies, including biology, chemistry, and physics. And you have studied 2 languages other than your own, other than English. His thesis defense about the Greek word for leisure, which is skole. And what does skole sound like? Yep, you guessed it, school. It means leisure, school, or a place of leisure. So how in the world did the Greeks ever equate school with leisure? Show of hands, how many of you ever felt like school was a place of leisure? I didn't think so. What the Greeks meant was this is the time when one is not forced to work for a paycheck, but simply for the desire to know for its own sake with no useful purpose. After all, it was Aristotle who began his metaphysics saying, all men by nature desire to know. Not just some humans, but we all by nature desire to know. To know what? What is it by nature that we desire to know? And for the record, Ms. Harrington, I did not coordinate with Mr. Mystery on our speeches. But at this point, Ms. Harrington will have to forgive me for using so much of the Republic, for she was my local Socrates skeptic. And she always questioned the gadfly of Athens, and she always thought he was up to no good. And so she'll have to forgive me for using the Republic, but I do love Socrates. And so the Republic really is a book about education, and that's why I think it's important to talk about. And so for the benefit of those who have never read it before, I'll provide the image that Socrates gives us regarding what he says is the image of the nature of our education or lack thereof. He says, imagine human beings living in an underground cave-like dwelling with an entrance a long way up, which is both open to the light and as wide as the cave itself. They've been there since childhood, fixed in the same place, with their necks and legs bounded, able to see only in front of them. Light is provided by a fire burning far above and behind them. Also behind them, but on higher ground, there is a path stretching between them and the fire. Imagine that along this path, a low wall has been built, like the screen in front of puppeteers, above which they show puppets. Okay, do you have the image in your mind? He continues, and what if the prison also had an echo from the side facing them? Whenever one of the men passing by happens to utter a sound, do you suppose they would believe that anything other than the passing shadow was uttering the sound? Then most certainly such men would hold that the truth is nothing other than the shadows of artificial things. Note the role of images and imagination that Socrates uses, that these prisoners believe that the truth is nothing more than the shadows of artificial things. Of course, the modern application of sitting while facing a screen and watching images is painfully obvious, is it not? Think about how much time we spend in our days whether looking at screens, our smartphones, the television, or our computers. We're inundated with images every hour, sometimes every minute, are we not? So the question we must ask ourselves, are we passive recipients of empty and deceptive images or active formers of true and beautiful images? If you're a graduate of North Phoenix Prep, it's the latter. You are an active former of true and beautiful things. So now that Socrates says, after we've educated those with the best natures and we've helped them to escape the cave, he says to Glaucon, we cannot permit them what was permitted before. And remember, that's to stay above. We must compel them to go back down to the cave. The Greek word is ananke, which means to constrain or compel, as in a means of an argument, like a syllogism or a proof. But I know it's been a year or 2 years. Do you ever remember Socrates telling us the why? Why does he compel them, those with the best natures, to go back down? I don't think that he does. So I'm going to give you what I think is my most compelling argument on why you must be compelled to go back down. Now, the argument that I'm about to provide, my colleagues, some of them might disagree with me, and some scholars, they'll say that Plato had a disregard for sensible things, for the sensible world. That once you've ascended the ladder, that you sort of kick out the ladder from underneath you and you stay, and he stays up there, he stays above and doesn't ever want to venture back in the world of sensible things. That Plato had a disdain for the sensible world. But I think there's more to the story than this. A philosopher, as you know, simply means a lover of wisdom. And we're all philosophers in that respect, are we not? Remember Aristotle's opening line of the Metaphysics, that all men by nature desire to know. And you're a graduate of North Phoenix Prep, so you're already in an elite cadre. Okay, so here's the argument. The lover of wisdom, or the philosopher, goes back down into the cave because philosophy is a love of the whole, a love of all that is, the entirety of what is. You must go back because the senses and the images, do you remember the divided line? You remember you have the sensible, insensible things. You have the images, you have the things themselves, you have thought, you have intellection. But remember, all of it, that's all a part of the whole. And because philosophy is a love of the whole, you never really leave the higher things behind. Now, we're all constantly encountering images, and you will no doubt encounter a whole new set of images, no matter what you decide to leave when you leave out these doors. But know this, that after the education that you've received, that you're going to see, you already do, with a whole new set of eyes. But this comes as no surprise to us, does it not? Because consider all the greats. They were all grounded in the world, were they not? You've read many of them. Consider Dostoevsky, Aristotle, Mary Shelley, Dante, Jane Austen, just to name a few. These are all men and women grounded in the world. And then there's my favorite, Marcus Tullius Cicero. This man somehow was able to unite our very own founding fathers, John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. They didn't agree on anything, at least that I can think of, but they did agree on this one thing, that Cicero was the best living illustration of a man who joined the philosophical life and the life of the statesman. He also transformed the Latin language to the point where Caesar said of Cicero that it is more important to have greatly extended the frontiers of the Roman spirit than the frontiers of the Roman Empire. And Cicero did that with his expansion of the Latin language. And it was during Cicero's forced exile that he wrote many of his works and his masterpiece On Duties, which was his last known work before he died. It was also a letter that he wrote to his own son. As an aside, after the invention of the printing press in Europe, the second book that was published after the Bible was De Officiis, or On Duties, by Cicero. It was held in that high regard. Cicero is quite helpful for us today because he was not just a man of theory, but he was a man of action. He was a Roman senator. And in 63 BC, he did something unprecedented. As a man he was considered a new man. He didn't have a family history. He didn't have a lineage that had run for such an office before. But as a new man, he won the highest office in the Roman Republic, and that was a consul, without ever having run before. Just through sheer talents and determination alone, he was elected to the highest office in the greatest empire at the time. He was also a quick thinker who saved the Republic from the Catalan conspiracy, in which the conspirators would have set Rome afire. They would have murdered senators and then taken over the government, and thereby committing patricide. If it wasn't for Cicero, that would have happened, but it didn't, because he exposed that. So here's what Cicero has to say to his own son about what a statesman, someone in public service, should be like. He says, "Therefore, we require men who are brave and of great spirit, also to be good and straightforward, friends of truth and not in the least deceitful. Such are the central qualities for which justice is praised." But note, that won't be, is easier and safer, less troublesome to oneself or to others. Those, on the other hand, who have adapted themselves to great achievements in the service of the political community lead lives more profitable to mankind and more suited to grandeur and fame. And know that as you leave your life of leisure, before you become an attorney, a doctor, a nurse, an IT security specialist, a biologist, or any other profession, that you are first and most fundamentally a human being. We have as your faculty in our respective disciplines, whether that's math, art, science, foreign language, drama, human letters, we've done all we can to help you recognize and embrace the true, the good, and the beautiful, simply because it's true, it's good, and it's beautiful. The education you have received, if done well, makes you free. This is why we call the education you have received liberal, for it's from the Latin liber, meaning to liberate. It's a liberating education. That has been the goal of your time here, and it's the highest, most noble object for any of us to pursue, which is why I'm still a student pursuing my second master's at the University of Dallas. This is why I believe in classical education, because it liberates. So thank you for the honor of allowing me to speak here this morning. And thank you for the privilege of giving me 2 hours every single morning to share with you the great texts and being a part of the great conversation that we've all been a part of since the beginning of your time here. So thank you for that. I hope that you take all of those conversations with you wherever you go, no matter what you do. May God bless you and keep you, and make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Boyer, for always pointing us, all of us, toward the true, the good, and the beautiful in everything that you do. And now, it has come time, members of the class of 2020, for me to invite Ms. Sarah Scripsima, our Dean of Students, to come to the podium to call the roll of the graduates.
Thank you, Mr. Weinhold. We, the assembled faculty of the Academy, are here to recommend these young men and women to the governing board. We attest to their completion of the prescribed course of study, and we ask that the board confirm this and confer a diploma upon each member of this class. Faraz Ibrahim Alcasas. Madison Stacy Baca. Rocco Salvador Berbetti. Jordan Kenyon Black. Bryce James Cannon. Alana Nicole Curtis. Olivia Victoria Gortich, in absentia. Katie Lynn Harrington. Vishesh Kumar, in absentia. James Darrell Lippincott. Olivia J. Ludinger. Brian Martins. Faison Faisal Mystery, in absentia. David Shane Moore. Lauren Nicole Nelson. Anna Venceslavova Pesheva. Bradley Christopher Pobiak. Nabana Rafiq. Marianne Rasho. Russell Miles Roberts. Isaiah Robert Ryan. Nathan Zito. George Esteban Fitaco. Bryant Walker. Chandler True Wyan. Pierre George Yonan Jr. Taylor Renee Yvonne. Graduates, please stand. We're going to wait for Miss Yvonne. You're fine. Just don't trip. Graduates, you may now move your tassels from the right to the left. Ladies and gentlemen, I am fiercely proud to present to you the graduates of the class of 2020.
Congratulations, graduates. Please be seated for just a few more moments. Graduates, it has come time for us to say farewell to you. In just a few moments, you will process out of this place. And I would ask you and all who gather here to observe social distancing in the courtyard, if you would, where we will have one more group photo opportunity on the hill facing the school. And also members of the audience, once our graduates and faculty have processed out, please follow out from the back row to the front row. So back row first. And now in this, my final graduation ceremony as your headmaster, let me reflect briefly on the concluding rite of our ceremony today. As you depart from this assembly, you will carry a candle lit from a shared flame. That same flame will enkindle both your candles and those carried by the faculty. And this ceremony actually alludes to a moment in Dante's Purgatorio, that second book in his Divine Comedy, when Dante asks his guide, Virgil, another Roman. Romans seem to be a theme today. We had Cicero, and now we have Virgil. So Dante, an Italian, is asking his Roman guide, Virgil, how can a good that's shared by more possessors enable each to be more rich in it than if that good had been possessed by a few? Dante asks this question because it seems that good things, when divided, naturally become less, and there's less for me. A $100 bill is a good thing, but if I share it, there's less for me. Even winning first place in a competition is a good thing, but if I share that honor with someone else, then there seems to be less honor for me somehow. But Virgil's response reveals that goodness actually increases when shared. Just as light from a candle is not diminished, but grows even brighter when it is divided or reflected. And so Virgil instructs Dante, saying this: "But if you still persist in letting your mind fix on earthly things, then even from true light you gather darkness. That good, ineffable and infinite, which is above, directs itself toward love as light directs itself to polished bodies. Where ardor is, that good gives of itself, and where more love is, there that good confers a greater measure of eternal worth. And when there are more souls above who love, there's more love as well there, and they love more, and mirror-like, each soul reflects the other." And so, graduates, remember that love means willing the good of others. Remember that in loving others, we actually increase the good. We make good things even better when we pursue them in friendship. Remember that you carry within your hearts this ever-burning flame that expands and increases the light of wisdom, and continue to share it throughout the whole of your lives.
you.